My husband and his mistress died in an accident, and everyone wants me to raise their children as my own. But the only thing I'm brewing is accusations and revenge within their church group. Apologies for using a new account. I know it's a red flag, but I don't want to risk using my old Reddit account. My husband, 49, and I, 45, had been married for 23 years. He had an affair with a 20-year-old since 2020. I found out this year when his affair partner gave birth to twins in March. Obviously, we were going to get divorced. We've been sorting everything out since then. It's been a long process due to some shared properties, and because we needed an accountant as he had used the joint account for his affair. Finally, it seemed things were close to ending when both my husband and the woman he cheated on me with died in a car accident. Miraculously, the twin babies were unharmed in the accident. They are now orphaned and none of the grandparents can permanently care for them. My husband's parents are in assisted living facilities. He has no siblings, and the only aunt who could care for them refuses. She has decided not to have children her entire life. On the woman's side, I don't know all the details, but her parents also cannot be involved long-term, and her only sister lives abroad. Since we were still married and he hadn't updated his will, all his assets are set to pass to me and our 2 daughters. I'm not so heartless as to leave those babies with nothing, so I agreed that whoever becomes their legal guardian can keep the remaining balance from the joint account, about $25,000 in savings. The problem is no one wants to take responsibility for them. Now my in-laws are pressuring me to adopt and raise them. The problem is I absolutely don't want to. I wouldn't love them, and I don't want to be the wicked stepmother. I know a large part of me will always harbor some resentment towards them. I would probably favor my own daughters. It's not their fault, but I truly loved my husband and thought we were happy before I discovered the affair. We have 2 daughters, 14 and 16. Obviously, we had disagreements, but we never insulted each other before. Then I discovered the affair, and he started insulting me and blaming me for his infidelity. He became abusive and even tried to kick me out of the house, my childhood home, which for the record is not shared property. Now I'm also raising teenagers alone. I no longer have the energy to care for babies. My daughters hate their half-siblings. I tried to get them to spend time with their father while we were divorcing, but they refused. Since all of this came out because of the babies, there was really no way to sugarcoat the situation, and they're also too old to get away with it, so to speak. Most of my friends agree that it's not my responsibility to care for those children, but my in-laws, the parents of the woman he had the affair with, and my mother all want me to raise them. I know my mother just has grandchild fever, but it hurts not to have her support. I have to make a decision by next week or the children will go into foster care. For now, they are temporarily with their maternal grandparents. I feel terrible, but I'm very sure I cannot take them on. It would be wrong if I refused to take them in. Update 1. This became much bigger than I thought, and I appreciate the well wishes for my daughters, the children, and myself. I also thank the many kind people who offered to help find a good home for the twins. I may not be their mother, but it touches me and makes me happy to know there are good people out there. After careful thought, speaking with my lawyer, reading the responses, researching, etc., I plan to speak with the grandparents tomorrow and decline legal guardianship of the children. I will inform them of the usernames of the people who offered to meet for private adoptions or fostering, but my daughters are my priority. It will be the twins' grandparents' decision whether to proceed with adoption, keep them themselves, or surrender them to the state. I wish I had the mental capacity to be the person to do this, but I have 2 daughters who are going through a lot and need all my attention. I will also speak with lawyers to determine if the children have any inheritance rights. If they do, I will set it aside and let the lawyers do what they need to ensure the children can access it at the appropriate time. If they don't, I will find a way to ensure they have access to the $25,000 I originally planned to give them. However, I will not do anything more. My moral compass might be skewed, but I don't believe I have an obligation, moral or legal, to do more than what the law dictates. I can't help everyone, and I shouldn't have to. I have 2 daughters who lost their father, 2 daughters who need therapy, 2 daughters who are about to go to college. They have been through enough without seeing their mother favor their father's mistress's children. Update 2. As I mentioned a couple of nights ago, I went to speak with the twins' grandparents yesterday. I explained my position and refused to assume guardianship of the children. My mother-in-law nearly slapped me when I said that, but fortunately everything happened in a public place and my father-in-law stopped her. The maternal grandparents kept begging me to raise them as they didn't want to lose them. I kept saying no, and when they called me selfish, I lost my patience. I told them to their faces that the only selfish people in this mess were them, their son, and his mistress. Their son, my husband, for cheating on me, and then making the divorce hell for me and my daughters. His mistress, because she was a tramp, I used another word, who got involved with a married man twice her age. I told them that if I heard from them again, I would file a cease and desist. I also informed my in-laws that they would not have access to my daughters for the foreseeable future. I'll explain why in a moment. We were at a restaurant, but I didn't stay for the meal. I also emailed my lawyer to ensure that Child Protective Services and any agency involved in the twins' welfare are aware that I will not be their guardian or involved. Then I emailed my in-laws with all the usernames and websites of the people on Reddit who offered to interview for the twins' adoption. I will not be involved beyond this point, so as kind as it is, I cannot help if they are interested in the children. Yesterday was the end of my involvement. Regarding my in-laws not seeing my daughters, I spoke with them and decided to better understand their thoughts before seeing the grandparents. My younger daughter refused to talk to me, which I found very strange for her. My older daughter asked to speak with me alone. That's when she explained that my in-laws were saying the girls should prepare to go to public school instead of private and get jobs as soon as they graduated high school, since I would have to pay for the twins' private school and college. Apparently, they also told them to start moving their things to share a room as the twins would need more space. I didn't know this mainly because that would never happen. Apparently, my in-laws have basically been intimidating the girls because the babies are a priority. Yeah, that's not going to happen. I told the girls that their grandparents have no say over where they go to school, their college funds, or how rooms are distributed in our house. I also told them that I agree they can have a part-time job during college and perhaps get a scholarship, but that their tuition will be paid. I told them not to blame the babies for the adults' stupidity. They told me they understand, but that for now, they don't want to interact with their half-siblings. That for now gives me hope that they will get over it. For now, we are going to make some changes to the house. The girls and I don't like that there is still an office space my husband used. We are going to convert it into a playroom for everyone. I plan to remove some photos where my husband appears and put them in albums for the girls. We just want the house to feel more like ours. For those wondering why my daughters wanted nothing to do with their father, my daughters were the ones who discovered the infidelity and told me when my husband took them to meet the twins at the hospital. He had asked them to keep it a secret, but my daughters told me. After that, my husband began treating them horribly. He also burned all bridges with the girls. Update 3. Very small update, as some people are still harassing me via private messages. I spoke with a lawyer on Monday. The children have no inheritance rights until a DNA test is done. After that, their only claim would be against my in-laws. The joint account is not considered my husband's individual property, so it's mine. The same goes for the lake house. Since he had a personal savings account and a life insurance policy that went to his parents, that would be the only thing the children could claim. Obviously, this could change if it went to trial, but the lawyer told me that with how little my husband left to my daughters and me, there is very little chance a judge would demand our assets. The lawyer also recommended I completely abandon the idea of sharing money with the children. That could be used against me to allege that I am assuming financial responsibility for them and should be considered their guardian. I am earmarking the money from the joint account for my daughter's college tuitions. I'm still not sure if I'll sell the lake house or not, but neither the girls nor I have any attachment to it. Now please leave me alone about the children's inheritance. Sad as it is, my husband ruined everything for his children. I am not responsible for them, nor do I have to sacrifice my assets to give them a better life. Update 4. There's good news and annoying news. The good news is that the children were safely removed by Child Protective Services from their maternal grandparents and will be placed in temporary care until a permanent arrangement is made. I found out when it happened, as their grandparents and my mother came to yell at me at work. Honestly, I'm glad this happened at work and not at home. It has made me consider moving, as I don't want my daughters exposed to all this. A nuisance I had shortly after was receiving a call about my inquiries regarding fostering and adoption. Apparently, my information was sent to Child Protective Services as someone interested in fostering the twins and eventually adopting them. I immediately explained the situation between the grandparents and me, and the operator was speechless at first. She apologized for the situation and told me she would ensure I wasn't bothered with the process. I was also notified this morning my in-laws are suing for grandparent rights. They are also suing for custody. Apparently, they plan to leave their assisted living facility, which they really shouldn't, to buy a house that will allow them to get the twins back. And now they also want custody of my daughters. My personal lawyer immediately gave me some instructions that I will not share to protect myself and my daughters from certain risks during a possible custody battle. Both my lawyer and I suspect my in-laws want the girls to act as caregivers for the twins, as they have mobility limitations. It will be a very cold day in hell before that happens. I don't see Child Protective Services placing the children with them from the outset. Not all is bad news. I will start therapy next week, and my older daughter is again talking about the universities she wants to attend. We still haven't really talked about her father, nor have I managed to get them to agree to visit his grave. I haven't gone there myself and am trying very hard to get used to not calling him my husband anymore. I had nothing to do with the funeral plans aside from paying bills. And from what I heard, his parents had husband, father, devoted son engraved on the headstone. I find it a joke. I know it's bad to hold on to so much anger and resentment, but as soon as I have time, I plan to change his headstone to remove husband and father. It may seem petty, but I refuse to speak well of a cheater and abuser just because he's dead. My daughters deserved better, and so did I. And for anyone who complains that I will change the headstone, I paid for everything in the end. So keep your complaints where you know. I don't think I'll post another update until all the mess with the grandparent rights lawsuit is resolved. So to the kind people who have sent support to me and my daughters, thank you very much. Maybe I'll have good news in the future, but for now, I'll go back to my old Reddit account. Small disclaimer. To the person who private messaged me telling me I'll regret not adopting the twins, I don't regret it one bit. Please post a public message or leave me alone. I don't deal with cowards who use private messages to avoid judgment. Update 5. Some people have been asking me for updates, and to be honest, I didn't have anything until today. To start, cousins from my ex-husband's side of the family took over the children. I know them. They are lovely, and I know they will give the twins a great life. The new parents, I'll call them Maddie and Kim, talked to my daughters and told them that if they ever want to contact their half-siblings, they just have to call. Otherwise, they can just see them as distant cousins. My daughters thanked them, but insisted that at this moment they don't really want a sibling relationship, although perhaps as cousins would be okay. I offered them the money from the joint account since they are family, but they said not to worry because they don't need it. Kim even insisted that I use that money for a vacation for my daughters and me. Apparently, I look like a walking corpse. They also established very strict boundaries with my in-laws and with the parents of the woman my ex had the affair with. They can see the children, but they will not be considered grandparents. This apparently caused a big fight with the woman's parents. Maddie and Kim cut them off from contact. Again, threats of a grandparent rights lawsuit were made, but they came to nothing. This is how I found out why the woman's parents couldn't permanently care for the children. The father is a convicted felon from an abuse case. I won't share the details out of respect, but if what Matt and Kim told me is true, I'm glad the children won't grow up with that man as an example. The only reason his wife had temporary guardianship was due to the sudden death of the children's parents and the process of finding a relative to raise them. She would have had to live separately from her husband to allow permanent custody and was not willing to do so. My ex-in-laws realized that threats were not going to work, so they agreed to be great aunts and uncles instead of anything else. Good for them, I guess. Now they want me to let them live with me and the girls as they recently left assisted living and the place they were in doesn't have availability. This place has a long waiting list, and the only reason they got in originally was because my ex and I offered to pay 5 full years in advance. They still had 2 full years paid, and I was going to pay them. After everything they put my daughters and me through, I'd rather burn the money on a grill than spend it on them. I know they want my daughters and me to be their caregivers. I won't even consider it. My daughters have their own paths to follow, and frankly, I want to consider meeting someone new. I know it sounds like I'm moving too fast, but I've been working on moving forward since I discovered the infidelity. I don't think my ex deserves for me to go through a grieving period. I already grieved our relationship. At least that's what my older daughter said. Interestingly, she has been encouraging me to go out and meet someone. We still have the custody lawsuit from my ex-in-laws and some other matters that I will update you on when I have more information, but at least I wanted everyone to know that the children are safe and together. Update 6. This week we had mediation for the grandparent rights lawsuit. This is only to avoid taking up space on an already saturated judge's calendar, though I knew it wouldn't come to anything. My ex-in-laws' demands were for my daughters to be in their custody or to spend weekdays with them and weekends with me. Even the court-assigned mediator told them they were not being realistic with their expectations. My lawyer and I only had one offer and were not willing to negotiate. They will see my daughters only if and when they want to. The mediator also thought we were being unfair. That's when a detail came out. My ex-in-laws had told the mediator that my daughters were 6 and 4 years old, a decade younger than they actually are. I provided their birth certificates as well as a photo of the girls. The mediator shook his head and said he couldn't help in this case. My daughters are too old for grandparent rights to even be considered. He will send a recommendation that the grandparent rights lawsuit be withdrawn, but the custody one will go ahead as neither my ex-in-laws nor I agree on custody. I refuse to give them a single iota of legal control over my daughters. Now they are also demanding that I name them legal guardians should I pass away. The answer is no. In strange news, I met the sister of the woman my ex had the affair with. She brought some things to my house that she knew had been stolen from me. These are things that were supposed to be in storage: my wedding dress, a box of antique jewelry that had a photo of my grandparents, some expensive coats, shoes, and what bothered me the most, copies of my personal documents, passport IDs, etc. The sister told me she was cleaning their house when she found my belongings and used the address on the documents. She was quite kind and apologized for her parents and her sister. I asked her why she refused to take care of the twins, and she said it was because she was tired of being her family's emergency plan. She didn't say more, and I didn't feel it was right to press. She knew they were my things because apparently the woman my ex had the affair with had boasted that my ex had given her these items except for the documents. She has no idea what's going on with that, but she didn't want anything to do with identity theft. She brought some things that weren't mine, and I let her know, so I only kept my belongings. I told my lawyer about the IDs, and he helped me freeze my credit. I'm processing new IDs and passports. We also reported the possible identity theft to the police to have the report in case my personal information is used illegally or to get me into trouble. I didn't know one could file a report about a deceased person, but apparently this happens more often than I imagined. And no, this won't turn into a posthumous conviction. It's just a procedure to protect myself. And to end on a fun note, I'm planning to burn that wedding dress and make s'mores over the fire. Quite petty. Update 7. I can't believe I ever had to make a post about my mother, but here we are. My mother, 71, and I have a complicated relationship. My mother was an old-fashioned traditional wife. A homemaker, never worked outside the home and had many more children than she considered healthy, 7 girls and 6 boys. She is originally from Guatemala and came to the United States at 14. She married my father here, had her family here, and tried to ensure my siblings and I had traditional values, something she completely failed at. Most of my siblings are as far away from my mother as possible. 2 of them sadly passed away. I am the only one who stayed close to take care of my parents, and since my father died, I have taken over my mother's finances so she can live comfortably. She has always been a dramatic pain, especially regarding my marriage. She spoiled my husband, always taking his side. I only wanted 1 child, but my husband wanted as many as biologically possible. He had told me he only wanted 1 when we discussed marriage. My mother helped him manipulate my birth control, which led to me getting pregnant with my youngest daughter. I don't regret my youngest daughter, but after she was born, I secretly had my tubes tied. My mother always reproached me for being defective since I only had 2 children. And that's not to mention how she criticized me for marrying old. I married at 22. She married at 16. When my husband's affair came to light, my mother blamed me. She said it was because I was a working woman who didn't please her husband, that I didn't give him enough children, and that I was no longer attractive. I won't say I'm super attractive, but I think I look good for my age. I maintain my weight and look relatively young, but not according to my dear mother. It wasn't enough for my husband, who needed a woman closer in age to our daughters than to him. She was also part of the group of people angry with me when I refused to adopt the children from my husband's affair. Her new madness is that she is trying to find husbands for my daughters, mainly focusing on my older daughter. This crazy plan started this week when my older daughter told us she is LGBTQ+. I was glad she felt comfortable enough to tell me this amidst all this chaos. My daughter also decided to tell my mother. My mother ended the call immediately and then called me to yell at me about how confused and sick my daughter was. She sent me links to conversion camps, psychologists who say homosexuality is a disease, in my opinion, lunatics, political articles, etc. She even wanted to explore the possibility of an exorcism. I told her to stop or she would be cut off like my ex-in-laws. She stopped for literally 24 hours. Then I received a Facebook message from a man in his 20s asking if it was true that I was looking to marry off my 16-year-old daughter. I told him he was sick and blocked him. That night, 6 more arrived. Afterward, my mother called me saying she had found potential husbands for my high school teenage daughters. Angry is an understatement. She even gave some of these men my daughter's phone numbers. Tomorrow we are all changing our numbers, and my daughters put their social media accounts on private. I don't know what part of my mother's brain is broken. I made my daughters block their grandmother on everything, and I am going to stop paying for anything she needs. I know I should call the police. I never thought I would have to call the police on my own mother. It's barely been 2 weeks since I had to cut contact with my ex-in-laws. I am exhausted. And please don't think this is normal in the Hispanic community. It's not. My aunts are incredible women, most also homemakers. They are on our side, supporting us cutting contact with my mother, and suggested we move to another state to be closer to them. This is just my mother's madness. Update 8. Today we went to the police and gave them all the information I had. The officer we spoke with was incredible and immediately helped my lawyer with everything needed for a temporary restraining order. We plan to file it this week and hopefully get it within the month. Afterward, we will focus on getting a permanent restraining order. This will be against both my mother and any third party acting on her behalf. The officer was also kind enough to offer to monitor us and our house at least once a day. The school has also been notified of the situation, and one of my brothers will come to live with my daughters and me until we decide if, where, and when we move. I can't just pack up and move immediately, as I still have a job, and my daughters are in the middle of the school year. For now, we are safe and my daughters have new phone numbers. Update 9. Good news regarding my mother arrived today. Starting November 2024, she will be financially independent. There is also an investigation into her due to what she tried to do to my daughters, and an old investigation into a family matter that I cannot discuss at the moment has been reopened. Due to the charges against my mother, we may get an acceleration of the restraining order as minors are involved, so fingers crossed. The temporary restriction will also prevent some other people from contacting me, mainly my in-laws. On the other hand, after talking with my daughters, all three of us agree that we no longer like our house. It saddens me a little because it was my childhood home and a gift from my father, but the reality is it carries too much emotional weight. When I look at the house, I feel like the ghost of my husband's infidelity is everywhere. My daughters also don't like being so close to their grandparents, and my brother, who moved in with us, has been very clear that the house is not worth the stress. So as painful as it is, I plan to make some repairs and sell or rent it. It's a large house with 9 rooms, much more space than we need. I would be happy with half of that. That way my daughters can have their own rooms and I can have an office. My brother will continue to live with us after we move. I don't know if it will be a permanent arrangement, but he is a great support for my older daughter on LGBTQ+ issues. I have to admit that I only know the basic facts, whereas my brother is gay and came out almost 30 years ago. He has been a source of advice on resources and has given her guidance, especially after my mother's madness. My younger daughter has also started to improve. She's talking normally again and seems less afraid to go out. She's very excited about looking for a new house with me. She wants a perfect yard, so we'll see what we can find. My job offered me a transfer out of state. There's also an international option, but that's probably a no for me. So a fresh start will do us good. That's all I have. Not many new developments as such, rather they are decisions I'm settling my mind on after reading advice here and discussing it with trusted people in my life. Starting in November officially, I refuse to acknowledge my mother. As far as I'm concerned, the word my parents was gone after my father's death. Edit. This is a small update, but I wanted everyone to know that we are fine. I still can't share many details, but we finally have a court date for the restraining order. It took longer than I expected, but things have been relatively calm. I'll tell you more when I can. Update 10. My ex-mother-in-law sent her church friends to harass my daughters and me. Now I have exposed her family to their church community, and she is being shamed and shunned by the church. My daughters have a complicated relationship with my ex-husband's parents. My ex died in an accident last year, and since then, we've had a lot of family drama due to his infidelity and him leaving 2 children born from his extramarital affair orphaned. She also died. Part of the drama has been that my in-laws tried to get custody of my daughters and also tried to live with us. The first we are resolving in court. The second will never happen. Where we live, there is a weekend market with fresh produce, eggs, meats, and other products directly from farmers. This week was especially special because it was my younger daughter's birthday. Since her party will be later in the month, I gave her a budget and let her go to the market to buy whatever she wanted, mainly chocolates and sweets. After an hour, I started to worry, and just before calling her, she called me crying, saying that some strange people had cornered her. I rushed to her with my older daughter and found 6 older women scolding my daughter for not being a Christian, for refusing to spend time with her paternal grandparents, or for not wanting to be a good older sister to her poor orphaned half-siblings. My daughters were the ones who discovered my ex's infidelity and the existence of the babies, so they don't feel close to the children. It's trauma, and they are working with a therapist. I stepped between the group and my daughter. I told my older daughter to pay for what her sister had taken and go to the car. Then I addressed the women, some of whom I knew from my in-laws' church, and severely reprimanded them. They said I was worse for not obeying my in-laws like a good Christian wife. How disgusting. Eventually, the shouting became too much, and we were all asked to leave the market. I met my daughters at the car while the women followed us like vultures. I managed to get into the car and we left. After my daughters went to sleep, I logged on to talk to another church member with whom I have a good relationship. I told him what happened, and after apologizing, he explained what was going on. My ex-mother-in-law had posted a huge story in the church's Facebook group about how horrible my daughters and I were, how we were leaving them homeless and penniless, they inherited my ex's bank account and life insurance, and how my daughters weren't even talking to them. She also blamed us for losing the grandchildren. The children now live with distant relatives of my ex-husband. Basically, it was a story worthy of a Hallmark movie, and of course they received a lot of support from the more extremist members of their church. This church and its members are a bit problematic, especially with LGBT issues, but they have one small positive point. They are incredibly strict about infidelity. It is totally unacceptable from both husband and wife. Now, how did my ex-mother-in-law manage to blame me for the affair children without exposing the infidelity? She claimed that the other woman was our surrogate mother because I couldn't have more children, and then she said I didn't want the babies because they were boys. It's absolutely disgusting to be accused of that. I decided it was time to clean up this mess, and since I was in the middle of the divorce when my ex died, I had all the necessary evidence. As the divorce hadn't been completed, I had no legal repercussions for showing the evidence. The next day, I went to a print shop to get copies of all the photos of my ex's cheating his text conversations with his mistress, those that showed his parents supporting him in the infidelity, my in-laws harassing me about the divorce, and my finishing touch, all the emails and messages in which they harassed my daughters about their half-siblings. In one of them, they called my daughters bastards and told them that their father's death was their fault for telling me about the affair and because I started the divorce. This was literally 2 days after my ex died. I paid extra to have everything printed on high-quality paper. Then at home, I sat for hours making custom folders. They look like the small prayer song packets the church gives everyone to sing hymns. The first photo upon opening the folders is of my ex and his mistress kissing in our living room. Their faces are easy to recognize, and the girl looks nothing like me, different skin tones and hair color. Below I wrote ex's name and mistress's name, love story. I took the folders to the church before the service. There's a desk at the back with hymn books for those who need or forget theirs, and they don't check them. The gossip spread fast and strong. My ex's and his mistress's names received such severe insults that even the pastor had to intervene to keep it relatively suitable for children under 13. People were angry with my ex-in-laws for abusing my daughters, but what made me laugh is that I was still wrong for the divorce. They said something like, although it's understandable that they failed after the shock and might possibly someday return to the light, unlike my unfaithful husband and his Jezebel, they used another word I can't write here, I imagine. I received 2 apology letters for my daughters and an invitation to join the church for support. As for my ex-in-laws, they were shamed to the point of leaving the church. My ex-mother-in-law posted on her wall that she felt alienated and that no one takes care of the elderly nowadays, how she wished her great-grandson was still alive as he would have taken care of her and her husband. With what money, I don't know, since I was the one financially supporting the family. Explanation regarding the will. My ex-husband had a will that named his parents as beneficiaries. As far as I knew, he had told me he had named our daughters, not them. I didn't insist on being a beneficiary, as in my own will, my daughters are the beneficiaries, not.